Daily Detroit is brought to you by the community. Support our work at patreon.com/dailydetroit.
Hello and welcome to your Daily Detroit. It's Thursday, April 7th, 2022, coming to you from the North End studio, and I have a very special in-person guest. You've heard her before virtually, but Robin Runyan, welcome. So the first time at the Daily Detroit studio.
Thank you for having me here. It is a lovely, cozy little studio you got here.
All right, let's get started. There's so much to talk about, and I'm just going to run through it. The Packard plant actually has a demolition order. Like, we're moving forward in this crazy saga. I don't know if I want to call it maybe Fernando's folly that he has tried to go. I mean, this has been years that the Packard plant's future has been kind of up in the air. The mayor and Fernando and everything, they've been going back and forth quite a while now.
Yeah, it's too bad because I think there was a lot of hope in the beginning that something could be done with it. It's such a historic place. It's such a massive place, just acres and acres of building and possibilities. And, you know, as the years wore on and nothing really happened, you know, the inevitable comes about. And I think it's really sad, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, the demolition order that was put down basically kind of clears the way for what I understand. You know, the last few years has been pretty clear to me, and this isn't any inside knowledge. It's like, this is clear words that the mayor has said, like, I want to assemble large pieces of land that we can do industrial or large scale development on. That's no inside information. That's clear as day. You know, so much of the Packard plant is also owned by the city of Detroit. I look at it from a different perspective. I think it's been sad to be holding on to this for so long, because what it does is it kind of forces all those neighborhoods that surround it, and this is such a big plant that there are multiple areas that surround it, it locks them in place. Like, it's really hard to move forward when you've got the Packard plant kind of, for the most part, crumbling a couple of blocks away.
And it's so visible, too. Like, if you're driving down 94 or over Mount Elliott, like, it's right there, and it's so big. And, you know, for the people who live there to see that just every day it's discouraging.
What do you think could go there going forward? I mean, we've still got some time to play out in the court, but clearly we're going on the path towards this thing's coming down.
Right. And, you know, we've seen over the past year, industrial is really coming back, especially North Point Development has, you know, bought up a bunch of land, and they're building, you know, sites that are going to have, you know, manufacturing again. So that's what I envision. And I think they have alluded to that before. So we'll probably hear an announcement pretty soon.
The Southwest Greenway is like ground broke, which is awesome. Runs from Bagley to Jefferson Avenue. It's about an $8 million project. I know we've talked about greenways a little bit on the show with Todd Scott and others, but I think this is an important one to pull out and highlight because A, it's a groundbreaking, which means it's actually happening, but B, it's like such an important area with a lot of things going on around it.
Yeah, I'm a really big fan of green spaces and parks in general. I think, honestly, that they're just as important as buildings being rehabbed. People need safe, clean, accessible places to go outside. Inside as well, but that's a different story. But yeah, this is exciting that this is finally happening. It's going to connect the Ralph C. Wilson Centennial Park, which is going to be along the West Riverfront, which I believe will be a destination in the next few years. It's supposed to be this amazing, really beautiful designed park. The same guys who designed the park by the Brooklyn Bridge.
The renderings are stunning.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool. But to connect it to Michigan Central, which obviously is going to be the place in the next, few years, it just makes sense to be able to give people more places where they can travel by foot or by bike and not be impaired by traffic is extremely important. You know, it's kind of the same thing over by Belle Isle and Mount Elliott. So that connector over at the Uniroyal site should also be done this year, where people would have to go up to Jefferson before to kind of make that connection and, go into traffic, through traffic. Just giving people places to go, to exercise, to relax, to just get away outside is super important in a million different ways.
For sure. I've heard the criticism over the years of like, well, why are we spending so much effort on a greenway? What about, why aren't we doing something that was more impactful, whatever someone defines that to be. But to me, I feel like these are the kind of amenities that a city just should have. Like I could make the argument that a world-class city should have, and that's absolutely true. But I think any city should have this. Like people deserve these kinds of spaces. Just go out and enjoy, and you don't have to pay money
Absolutely.
to see something nice. I don't think everything should be under private control and having to punch a ticket to be able to go enjoy your bike or whatever. There is a move toward, all right, let's do something more physical. Let's be healthier. I'm stunned by how many people, and I don't mean this as like a fitness thing because look, I enjoy my Conies and my Fagos. Take a walk, just getting out there and getting steps and enjoying the place around you. And to me, Detroit is best by bike, and a Greenway is a great way to experience that.
Absolutely. And we've seen with a pandemic that people just need places to go, that aren't their homes, that aren't, a building downtown or so. They just need places to be and to get fresh air. And, during the months where we can enjoy that, I spend a lot of time on the Dequindercut and the riverfront. And I really love seeing all the people out there because they are used quite often. And the more that this Joe Louis Greenway gets done, the more connectors we have, the better. I mean, I know 5 years, I want to say 3 years. I really want this to get done so soon because I use these places. Like I don't bike myself very often, but I do spend a lot of time walking and running. And, people need a place to go outside. It's not rocket science here.
And here's the thing. Every time these things start to get built, they get used. The Dequindercut is used. It's a point of pride for people. And I don't understand why it's so hard for some people to not understand that. But I think these are the kind of connections that are part of what makes living in Detroit worth living, as this saying goes. You need to offer amenities that are over and above. And when I think about the future of Detroit, and if we want Detroit to be stable and to grow, I don't think it's going to be by out-Troying Troy. It's not going to be like trying to double down on the strip malls that Sterling Heights has. And I don't mean that as a knock against those places, but Detroit has to use its unique assets. And one of them are these rail paths, these ways to create greenways. To me, on another episode, we were talking about the extension, the part of it that's over by the water plant near the Dearborn border. Who would have thought that'd be an area to visit? And then all of a sudden that greenway getting built there, it makes it interesting.
It makes it a destination. People know that, oh, this is an option. I can go here. And if it's near their house, even better. They don't have to travel that far. Any major city, you're going to see these things. So the more Detroit can do it, it's just better for the population in general.
So we're going to open up the mailbag. You weren't here for this, but we were talking about the space that was Chung's, the legendary Chinese restaurant, right there in Midtown. You do a lot of coverage with Urbanize of different areas. Before we get into the mailbag, what is your thought on that corner, like Peterboro, Cass area, and what's happening there?
There's so many options there because of what's happened over the past few years. There's so many businesses over there, and people go. They go to the shipping company. There's a tattoo place over there.
The place is always
there's
packed.
A Play-Doh. There's a ton of places over there. So there's really a lot that you can do. So I hope that somebody with the money to zhuzh it up a little, make it.
There is not $1.5 million in the Daily Detroit Kitty, although I'll tell you.
Shoot.
A 8,500 square foot podcasting and creating studio in the heart of Midtown.
There you go.
Come
on.
Patreon.com/Daily Detroit. Anyway, opening up the mailbag.
Gotta manifest it,
It's the secret. It's the secret. So let's look at a few of the options. Now, one that came up a number of times was the idea to build on top of it. So keep the look. It's a very basic building in its structural composition. But really what's amazing about it, or people remember, are the look. You can look and see the old pictures of the sign. You could see the kind of cool soffit, the mid-century modernness of it. One idea that was shared multiple times, keep that look, but take it up. Take it 4 stories. Take it something to have some residential up top so you can start to create some residential density. Because, that Cass corridor was a really pretty, busy place back in the day. Mm-hmm. Another one was multiple upscale progressive Chinese restaurants. Because it's 8,500 or how many ever square feet, there's a lot of room in there. You could actually do multiple concepts. So maybe you could do multiple, this person says Chinese restaurants. I wonder if you could do multiple restaurant concepts inside of it. I don't know what the going
food
space
hall.
rate.
Well, I mean, the shipping company is right across, so that's a food hall in itself. But
Yeah.
a little competition for the Peterboro over there.
Or bars.
Yeah.
To me, building that up only means more people will go. Like there's this idea that some people have that say like, oh, I have to be the only thing. If you're all by yourself on an island, that's actually bad from a business perspective.
Yeah. I mean, I love that so many mixed use buildings are coming up because people use them. People want to stay in their neighborhood. They don't want to travel 20 minutes across town by car to go someplace. If you can walk someplace, it's that much better. So yeah, if they can get a bar in there, if they can get a restaurant, people living above it, great.
One that came up a few times, breakfast. Apparently, people want breakfast. One said casual breakfast joint, but breakfast came up multiple times. A breakfast spot. Are we missing a breakfast spot?
Yes. Although I went to Honest John's this morning and had French toast.
I do like good French toast.
Right?
Yeah. And I guess you could coney it up at one Woodward.
Sure.
Around, but yeah.
Breakfast is always good. I mean, if we can have it all day, even better.
Bookstore.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And then fitness yoga studio.
Put it all in there. Every one of those ideas, just put it in there. Do it. Let's make it happen.
Well, we linked to the listing if you've got $1.5 million as well as some other money to put into this thing. All very interesting. I love to see the energy around these kind of spaces.
Yeah, and that area is so active right now. I mean, it's a kind of a no-brainer.
So the remodel of the United Artists Building kind of shaped as, I believe, the residences at 150 Bagley because everything today needs to have a number in it.
Sure.
We haven't really talked about it on the show, and I wanted to mention it with you because it's your world. What are your kind of thoughts on this one? I mean, the developer is a longtime Detroit power broker in Emmett Moten Jr. He was literally the economic development director for Coleman Young. So that gives you an idea of like how long, and then it's of course owned by the Illiches. So there's a lot of like institutional longtime Detroit stuff going on with this thing. What are your thoughts?
Well, I remember going to an announcement in 2017 where this building was included as a part of a big, 5 or 6 buildings that were announced that were going to get done. One of those has been done so far, and this is the second to have anything going for it. So good luck to them. Good luck to the developers. I know that there have been some issues in the past with parking lots in favor of buildings in both of the developers.
Well, yeah, because Emmett Moten, the Saturday Night building, that got leveled for a parking lot for the Fort Shelby next door.
And that's too bad. I mean, it's always too bad when they tear down a building that can be brought back. And with this one, the United Artists Building, there's a theater in it, and a lot of preservationists said, there have been theaters in worse condition that have been saved. It's just too bad because there were a lot of theaters in that area, 100 years ago being built up. And you need that something historical to stay in, just to keep the story going. Not everything has to be historical all the time. We can mix the modern and the historical, but I feel like it's a real miss to tear that down.
We were kind of talking about off air some of our memories. And one of them for me, is a place like Tiger Stadium where you don't get that back. And I can't quantify that it's this steel beam there or whatever, but there's something that multiple spaces have. And it doesn't have to be a signature space. It can be a neighborhood space, something like that, where you walk in and you feel something about it and it makes you want to be there. And I am on balance glad to see that this thing is not being torn down. But I also think that we could be a bit more, we could push and be a bit more creative. I wonder if the limit is financing or money available. People, whatever I say about Mr. Dan Gilbert, I'm going to get heat from it either way. So I'm just going to say it. The one thing I really respect about him is he looks at it and doesn't look at the thing before. He looks at what could be and kind of looking at what could we do that's not normal? What do we go beyond the parking lot? What if we go and do a different kind of space to create something that is a destination and attracts people? Because again, it goes to that core point. Like, if you're going to be in Detroit, let's be Detroit. Let's do stuff that's special. Or is it really worth doing?
Right. And I think with Bedrock, also, they really think about placemaking. They think about what do we want people to do when they're here? What do we want people to feel when we're here? And there are certain developers in town that do that, and there are certain developers that don't. We definitely want places where people are going to remember that they go there. They want to tell their kids, but they want to tell people about it. And you don't always get that, from a apartment building.
Do you think they'd even recreate the marquee? Was that in the renderings? I can't remember.
No, I don't think so.
Last on my punch list of things to talk about as far as development goes, we'll have you here. The Grandy Ballroom is for sale. That place has so much musical history tied to it. Anybody in the 60s and 70s, that was the spot. It's for sale for $5 million. The Chapel Hill Missionary Baptist Church bought it for $60,000 in 2006. I remember seeing multiple kind of non-profit-y trying to restore the ballroom stuff, and it never really got off the ground in a proper way. And it seems like now for $5 million, I kind of want to just be like, we're done, on to the next.
Well, speaking of a historic performance space, here's the opportunity right here. So I hope that somebody picks up on that, hears that today and picks up on it and, has a great vision in their head that they can manifest and make happen.
All right, I'm a longtime Tigers fan, and I am glad to have you here because, let's be honest, the rest of our team does not follow the Tigers as much as some people do.
Jared, thank you for indulging me today. I have been a Tigers fan for a really long time. My dad was a big Tigers fan. My grandmother was a big Tigers fan. My great-grandmother was a big Tigers fan.
Wow, generational.
Right? And so I consider myself not just a casual fan. So for the first time in a few seasons, I would say 4 or 5 seasons, I'm actually really excited about this year.
Okay, so for me, I see a couple of stars coming into this year. You got Javi Baez, you got Miguel Cabrera. I mean, those are things to be excited about, but you have more of a radiant energy about it. What about this year? Because to me, I had chalked it up to, okay, another rebuilding year. This is what's going to happen. Why are you excited?
So last year, I went to probably 5 games last year, and I had more fun at those games than I've had in a really long time because the team was having fun. The Tigers, they went in with 0 expectations, basically. They're deep into the rebuild. But the team was having fun, and it was really great to see these young guys have really good years, better years than they expected, and they were really starting to mesh as a team. And so over the offseason, many of us were hoping for Carlos Correa, who was the big free agent this year. We didn't get that. It's fine, although he's on the Twins, which is not great for us. But we got Javi Baez, and he's great too. He's a young guy. He was with the Cubs for a while, and he's a shortstop. He's going to be a good player, big hitter. He does strike out a lot, so we'll watch that. But he should be really, really fun to watch and see how he gets along with the guys.
Odds makers don't necessarily look great on the Tiger season right now, but I feel like as long as they're competitive in games, it's a good time to go down to see it, right? It's a good time to be at Comerica Park.
Sure, and honestly, there's a few reasons to go this year. So there's a few prospects that are making their major league debut very early in the season. So Spencer Torkelson is one of them. He'll be our first baseman now. And when he was told that he made the team last week, it was Miggy who gave him his mitt. It was really cool.
That's cool.
It'll be fun to watch him. Riley Green, unfortunately, was injured, but he'll be up late May or June. So really want to watch out for these guys. And Miggy, he got his 500th home run last year. He's 13 away from his 3,000th hit, and hopefully he will do it at Comerica Park. I think it'll be really fun to lead up to that and get people out of the park to see that.
Another thing that is out there is this rating that kind of panned Comerica as a ballpark, saying there was not a good place to go. There was not in the top list of major league ballparks. And I have issues with that list, but I know that you have issues with that list.
Have they been there? I really like Comerica Park. I don't think it's the best ballpark I've been to, but I think it's a really great ballpark. I've been to about 8 major league parks, I think. Comerica, it has the tigers out front. That's really, really fun for kids. And they do the face painting for kids. They have the carousel with the tigers and all the animals. That's super fun. They also have the historic statues out, in the outfield, which is really cool to see, and a lot of just history around the park. And honestly, the skyline views, as an architecture buff and nerd, it's cool to see the different buildings from the seats.
Well, I mean, if you get bored, you can always look at the work of Louis Camper and the Book Tower.
Absolutely.
Depending on which seats that you have. Another thing I want to talk about is the food, because there's a lot of stuff in the lineup this year where I wasn't exactly sure, but you're telling me that there's a few items that I should give more chance to.
Okay, I will preface this by saying I'm not a big fan of ballpark food, just in general. I'm not a beer drinker either. But Comerica Park has other options for people who don't drink beer. Shocking, I know, but you can get a cocktail or whatever you need. They do have a few things that I do eat there. One is the shawarma nachos, and I think that's very specific to Detroit. They're really good.
If listeners could see my face, it would be of stunning, because I'm all about a good fusion. I'm all about trying things, but okay, now how do they put this together? I have questions. I've not tried this, so I have questions.
So it's the pita bread kind of broken up, which would be the nachos themselves, and then, meat and the garlic sauce and the pickles, and it's all together. You have a fork or not or whatever.
Okay.
It's all good. You got to try it this year.
Now, does it have the form factor you need for ballpark food? Because that's a big thing. So is it in a tray?
I mean, it's a big bowl-ish,
Okay.
Probably want a utensil or two to eat it with.
You probably would want a utensil. I think the form factor of ballpark food is so important, just like the form factor of street food, because you got to be able to enjoy it at your seat. If it's not designed right, then it's not going to be that much fun.
Yeah, so I have seen this year, they had little preview of food that they're serving this year at the ballpark, and they have pasties this year. And as someone with a Finnish background where pasties were a big thing, I'm pretty excited to try them and see how they are. But that's a perfect ballpark food because you just hold it in your hand. It's all good because they were made in the Upper Peninsula. A lot of miners would eat them because it's very easy to take with you and eat and be done with it.
Robin Runyan, I appreciate you. It's so good to have you by. If you want to check out some of the work that she's doing, you can go to urbanize.city/Detroit and, of course, find her on the internet, right?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me again.
If you have a minute, can you do me a favor and tell a friend about the Daily Detroit podcast? It is the best way to push Detroit's conversation forward, and the more, the merrier. All right, tomorrow, Man About Town Devin O'Reilly is joining me as he does on Fridays, and we're going to try some spring Detroit-made wines. I'm pretty excited. I'm Jer Stays. Remember that you are somebody, and we will see you around Detroit.